G'day legends, Blake here with another video, and if you've been a viewer of my channel for any length of time, you'll know that I'm often a champion of things like terracotta pots inside the home aquarium. I've mentioned before how they provide an excellent opportunity to rescape without totally destroying an aquarium. I mentioned the benefits of having beneficial bacteria in a container that you can pick up, put into a new tank and have the instant cycle, if you will. However, I do also understand that they can be a bit unsightly. They do make a little bit of a mess and you've got to plug the hole in the bottom of them. So if this is the horse and cart, if this is the OG, well, I've got the Ferrari for you today in a product called the Habistax. So inside this box, all the way from the UK, is the Habistax, and I haven't opened it to make sure. So let's crack it open together and take a look at what you get. So I've taken these items out of the cardboard box here, and this is what you can expect to find inside a Habistax if the Kickstarter campaign goes forward. So what do I mean by that? Well, Kickstarter is a platform for crowdfunding and to gauge market interest. So for example, the creator of this product probably can't go ahead and just create 10,000 of these, order them all, pay for all the money, and then find out that there's not that much interest in the market, which, by the way, I don't believe is the case here. I think there will be plenty of interest in that, which is why I've chosen to do this video. But in this case, they've chosen to go ahead with Kickstarter. So what that is they've set a target of about $90,000 to try and reach before this goes into production. So what you're gonna see here is a pre-production unit, which I believe is 3D printed, whereas the final units will be injection molded. So that campaign target will go towards creating a mold in most likely a Chinese factory to manufacture these in a different sort of way, because 3D printing is not the fastest way to make things like this, but it'll give us a good guide on what to expect here today. So yeah, if the campaign doesn't go through, you don't get charged. It's not like some giant scam or anything like that. And even if you think that the campaign's not likely to reach its target, I just won't even bother. I'd encourage you actually to back it if you ever intend to buy something like this, because at the very least, it will show the creator that, hey, I would buy this if it goes into manufacturing, and then they might choose to develop it with a smaller quantity or in a different type of way and still bring it to the market regardless. So I have been chatting to the creator of this, and he's got some really fantastic ideas about future options for this as well, such as cough, an entire wall of Habistax, which me personally, I would really love. So what we've got here are three main components. You have your base plate here, which has a couple of rings on it. You have an internal section here, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. And then you have the external Habistax, which I don't know if it's obvious what's going to happen to these yet, but it's pretty cool and I really love this idea. Depending on how high your aquarium is, obviously the aquarium behind the Habistax here is not that tall, and I wouldn't want it to come out of the water. Although you could have it coming out of the water and have some nice pothos and immerse grown marsh plants doing that as well. However, you can remove a section and you've got just a shorter Habistax as well. It's modular, so you could have some that are 4 of these tall, you could have some that are 1 of these tall. If you get, we'll talk about a couple of the different combinations later, but the one that I've got here today has 3 of these, so I've got 9 segments that I can play with in whatever combination, which I think is pretty cool. On the outside, we have this cool looking thing. It looks a bit like, I don't know, a Tower of Doom or something like that. But this is what we're gonna plant plants in. And after we do, it will become exactly like what we're trying to achieve with the terracotta pots, a modular planted system that's gonna grow some beautiful looking plants, harbor some fantastic bacteria, and that we're gonna be able to put in any aquarium that we like, move it, change it, fantastic. So just like before, this is modular. We can use as many or as little of these as we like. There's also a cap on the top so that all your media doesn't come flying out as soon as you place it in the water. Each portion here has 12 sections that can be planted in. So 12, 24, 36, that's some quick maths there for you, in a 3-tier high Habistax. So plenty of options for plants. Of course, you don't have to fill them all up, and you can fill them up at a later date too. You don't have to do it all on day one. So you might be considering the reasons behind having an internal section and an external section. And that's because we're gonna fill the inside up with some nutrient-dense aqua soil, and then we're gonna fill the outside up with some gravel. I think this is a really smart idea because how often do we hear about aqua soil breaking down, becoming powderized, and constricting the roots of the plants? And with this model, we don't have that problem. Even if it breaks down to that muddy, gunky stuff, if you've ever tried to clean out an aquarium with old aqua soil in it, it stinks, it's a mess, and it's a bit of a disaster. Well, that can happen on the inside tube of this, and it's not a problem at all because the plant's roots are still able to navigate their way through the gravel and get into that nutrient source without being a big disturbance and all that sort of stuff. But the gravel is also gonna lock in that muddy grossness whenever we try and pull this in and out of an aquarium too, which I think is just great. Okay, so I've moved over in front of the tank. You can get a little bit of a preview of what's gonna be going into these, but I'm gonna just quickly run through setting up a 1-layer high Habistax because it's exactly the same process for 3 and it's just a lot easier to get in shot. So you can see at the top of each of these sections, there's a little nib there, and at the bottom, there's, basically the male connection and female connection. So the base obviously has the quote unquote female connection, of which you're gonna start with the internal section, put it in and turn it to the left. The cool thing about this design as well so far is that the outside section also goes in, but it then turns right. So there's 2 different ways that you can just go ahead and check it. They turn independently, so that I like that because if you have it all finished and you pick it up and go to put it in the tank, if something accidentally, goes amiss there, you're not gonna lose the whole thing. Kind of both directions have to be turned in order for it to collapse. So it's a nice bit of safety there. So you got the internal and external sections there. And then when you've got determined how tall you want to go, this here is the lid. It works in the exact same way. 2 little knobby bits there. And the lid you can fill up with gravel or soil if you like, and you can plant, I think like carpeting plants would really work great in this because it's going to get heaps and heaps of light being higher up in the aquarium. So if you have traditionally struggled with carpeting plants and how much light intensity they require, this could be something really good too. You grow a nice little dome of Monte Carlo or whatever, or you can, I think it would also work really well, just a rock and some Anubias or something, sit it in there and that could look really nice too. But first of all, we need to fill up the internal and external. So the internal section gets filled with aqua soil, and you don't really need much at all. So I've got some ADA Amazonia here. Yeah, I don't know, about 1/4 cup or something like that. Just pour it straight in. And one thing, just make sure that you don't fill it above the connections there because it makes it a bit difficult to get the cap on after if you overfill it. You got to kind of come through and take some out off the top, and there's not that much space to do that. So just be conservative and fill it sort of. There is actually a line that goes all the way around, which I think is probably a good guide. But so I used, I don't know, about 1/4 cup of aqua soil in there. So, double that up, triple that up if you want to go multiple layers high. And then the outside section we're going to fill with gravel. Now you can either put your plants kind of in there now, especially Amazon swords and things with really long roots. That's going to be a bit more difficult to plant in later. So you can place those in now, but you can also just plant directly into the gravel afterwards. So personal preference, I would suggest if you got things with long roots, put them in before placing the gravel and allow the gravel to anchor them in. But just your normal stem plants and all that, you can just simply plant in there later. So don't feel like it has to be a permanent decision right now. So it's quite lucky, last night was a club meeting. So I picked up some more tissue culture plants from Reservoir Aquatics at the Aquarium Society of Victoria meeting. So I will place some of these. I got some really nice crypts. This is Crypt Flamingo. I've got a couple of crypts that I'm gonna put in here. But you don't have to use tissue culture plants either. You can use any So any type of plants you like. Last night I also picked up this micranthemum, which I think will look nice kind of draping down over it. So I might plant some of this in the top, like the cap, but I'll also place some in a couple of these pockets. Now you can either do this by hand or with tweezers. I've tried it both ways. I don't really have a preference. I'm just doing it however I choose. Okay, I think that looks nice. Another great one I think will work fantastic in this. I've got just some ambulia. So this will work well at the bottom because it's gonna really try and bush out and grow to the top. And I'll place this one at the back because I don't want it to overshadow any of the other things that I've got at the front. Some other plants that I'll incorporate, I've got some Crypt Wentii as well, which I know pink flamingo is a variant of Wentii, so it's much the same, but different colors and textures will work well together. I also have, what else? I got some Hygrophila polysperma pink, so I'll put this at the back as well, somewhere down the bottom, like so. A couple more crypts in the middle here, I think will work nicely. So you can see there's quite a long root on this one, so much better to do this before the gravel goes in. And then we are filling this up now, but I've got some of this bulbitis here, which is a rhizome plant, but if I place the roots through but leave the rhizome out, it will still grow really well. So I'll place this over here on the opposite side, I think. And I'm just sitting the rhizome at the base of the pocket there. Okay, I think that looks nice. I'll fill the outside with gravel and we'll see what it looks like in the tank. So when it comes to filling up the outside and the cap with gravel or whatever you're gonna choose to use, I wouldn't go directly with aquasoil on the cap because the holes are quite big, so over time some might drop down. So I'm gonna just put some gravel down first and then aquasoil, and then I'll plant the rest of this. Now I'm actually just gonna place a cap over there because I don't wanna fill the inside with gravel that I'm gonna have to pull out later, so maybe a bit of a life hack for you there. Now it's personal preference if you want to fill up the base or not. It will be perfectly weighted down if you don't, but if you just like the look of it, then you can. You can also fill it up with anything else like sand if you wanted to match the rest of your tank and have it a little bit less conspicuous. You could bury it down and fill the bottom with sand if you like. It's totally up to you. So a system like this, I just like the instant impact. You know, this tank's gone from bare bones to this in 1 second and to that. So I've set up two others really quickly with all sorts of different plants. I've got some Needleleaf Java Fern over here. I've got AR Mini up the top, S. repens. I've put a bit of Anubias over there, Ambulia, some more of the Hygrophila. We've got Crypt Parva here at the front. So absolutely any plant really will work great in this. I think it's just fantastic to get some carpeting plants in tanks that are deeper. This isn't necessarily a deep tank, but getting carpeting plants to work in tanks that have a decent amount of depth on them without getting some kind of crazy light that is gonna just create algae is always an issue. On this tank here, I've got some really nice lights here that Delua sent me. So these guys are the Illumagic Pixels. So they're gonna work fantastic for this tank here. But this one here, the two back ones, I've only gone 2 layers high just because we only really have 30 centimeters or 1 foot above the sand. So that's how that worked out. With the cap on this one, it sits basically right underneath the lid there, so can't really go any higher. Unless of course I wanted to put some marginal plants like pothos or rushes and go with the no lid setup. Potentially an option, but as for now, I've just got too much junk on top of the lid if I'm honest. So what do I think about this product? If we're speaking 100% honesty, I think it's great to see people innovating. I like it. I think it's a great way to get most bang for your buck from your aquasoil. I would like to see one improvement if they are listening, and that is I'd like to see every second layer of pockets staggered across so that they sort of run diagonal to each other, just to help with any overshadowing or anything like that. I'd like to see, yeah, just this middle part utilized. So that's one thing I would improve. However, for people that run breeding tanks, bare bottom setups, or just generally don't like substrate, I think this is a fantastic way to get a good variety and a good a height of plants in their tank and get those benefits of having the nutrient export that plants bring. As well as that, it's a good way for people to supplement their fish hobby by potentially growing some difficult carpeting plants up the top near where the lights are so that you can be competitive with other people trying to grow them down the bottom of the tank. So that's a potential way that you can recoup some of the costs as well. But overall, super fun project. When it grows in nice and lush and bushy, I think it's just going to look fantastic, and with maturity it's going to look even better the more dense it gets. So let me know what you thought about this project. I had a heap of fun. Check out the Kickstarter linked down below. It's got a bunch of information that you'll need down there. But no matter what you decide, drop a comment down below of what you think about the project, improvements that you would make or anything else, but at least try and be constructive, because I have no doubt that they will be reading the comments, and it's just great to see somebody with some energy coming in and trying to come up with new things for the hobby. So I think that should be encouraged. But other than that, if you like my videos, I've got another one right there for you to check out. If you like the video, it always helps me out to smash like, hit subscribe and all that fun stuff. And happy fish keeping. Catch you on the next one.